Nobody warns you about this part. Every book about wealth talks about the systems, the compounding, the investment vehicles, the habits, the mindset shifts, and all of that is real. All of it matters. But there is a specific stretch of the journey that none of those books prepare you for. A window, roughly 30 days, where everything you've built, everything you believe about your financial future, and everything you think you know about yourself gets pressure tested simultaneously. Not by the market, not by bad luck, by the specific, relentless, deeply personal friction of becoming someone different than who you've been. Because that's what building wealth actually is. It is not primarily a financial transformation. It is a personal transformation that has financial consequences. And transformations, real ones, lasting ones, go through a crucible, a period that is genuinely, specifically, measurably hard. Not hard in a motivational poster way. Hard in a 2 a.m., questioning everything, wondering if this is worth it way. These are those 30 days. What happens in them? What they cost? What they reveal? And most importantly, why the people who get through them come out the other side permanently different from the people who don't. If you are in those 30 days right now, this video is for you. If you haven't entered them yet, this is the map. Study it before you need it. Let's go through it day by day. Days 1 to 5. The decision that feels real for the first time. The 30 days don't start when you decide to get serious about money. Most people have made that decision dozens of times. New year, after a stressful bill, after watching someone else succeed. The decision itself is cheap. It costs nothing and changes nothing. The 30 days start the moment the decision becomes concrete action with real consequences. The first time you automate a significant transfer to an investment account and feel the checking balance actually drop. The first time you say no to a social event because the cost doesn't fit the new budget. The first time you open a spreadsheet and confront, in actual numbers without averages or rounding, exactly what your financial life looks like. That moment, the first moment the plan is real and not theoretical. That is day 1. And days 1 through 5 have a specific character. They feel clarifying, almost electric. You have a system. You have a direction. You have made a decision that feels different from the previous decisions because this time you actually did something instead of just intending to. The energy in these early days is dangerous in its own way, not because of the clarity, but because of what comes next. The clarity is real, but the clarity has not yet been tested. You have not yet encountered the specific resistances that will define the next 25 days. You are running on decision energy, which is the most abundant and most temporary form of motivation available to human beings. What you do in days 1 through 5 matters. For one reason, you are establishing the baseline behaviors that will either hold or collapse under the pressure that's coming. The automated transfer should happen in these days. The budget should be set in these days. The investment accounts should be opened and funded in these days. Do everything that can be done with infrastructure, with systems, while the motivation is present and the friction is low. Because the motivation will fluctuate dramatically in the days ahead. The systems will not unless you let them. Days 6 to 10, the first wave of social friction. This is the first genuinely hard stretch, and it doesn't come from where most people expect. It doesn't come from discipline failures. It doesn't come from market movements. It comes from other people. Days 6 through 10 are when the new financial behavior starts to become visible to the people around you. And people, even the ones who love you, even the ones who want good things for you, are not neutral about behavioral change in someone close to them. They react. Sometimes with curiosity, often with pressure, disguised as something else. The group chat suggests dinner at a restaurant that's outside the new budget. You decline. Someone says you've been distant. Someone says you're being boring. Someone says you're taking this money thing too seriously. You only live once, you know. This is not malice. This is the social immune system responding to a perceived deviation from the group norm. Every social group has an equilibrium, a shared set of behaviors that members of the group perform and reinforce in each other. When you change your financial behavior, you implicitly challenge the equilibrium of every person whose financial behavior resembles your old one. Their discomfort is not about you. It is about what your change implies about their choices. And the easiest resolution to that discomfort is to pull you back to the equilibrium, to make the change stop, to make things normal again. In days 6 through 10, the people who make it through the 30 days are already distinguishing between two responses to this social pressure. The first response is compliance, attending the dinner, spending the money, restoring the social equilibrium, and quietly abandoning the plan. The cost is not the dinner. The cost is the evidence it provides about who is in control, the system you built, or the expectations of your social environment. The second response is not aggression or lectures or announcing a new financial philosophy to everyone who will listen. It is something quieter and more durable. It is the beginning of understanding that your financial journey is not a group project, that the most important work you will do in building wealth will be invisible to almost everyone around you, and that their comfort is not your responsibility. This understanding that you are entitled to make private financial decisions without seeking consensus or approval is one of the most valuable things these early days teach. It is also one of the most uncomfortable things to feel for the first time. Days 11 to 15, the doubt arrives. Right around day 11, something shifts internally. The early clarity starts to cloud. The motivation that felt abundant in the first week starts to feel like a resource that is running low. And into that space, into the gap left by retreating motivation, doubt moves in, quietly, persistently, in the form of very specific questions that feel reasonable and measured and almost wise. Is this even worth it? Am I giving up too much now for something too uncertain later? What if the market crashes? What if my income drops? What if I'm making sacrifices for a future that doesn't materialize the way I'm imagining it? These questions are not irrational. They are intelligent questions asked by an intelligent mind that is beginning to process the full weight of what it has committed to. The problem is not the questions. The problem is the timing. Days 11 through 15 are the worst possible time to evaluate whether the strategy is correct, because you are deep enough in to feel the cost but not deep enough in to see any meaningful results. This is what researchers in behavioral psychology call the valley of disappointment, the period in any habit or behavior change where the inputs are real and the outputs aren't visible yet. The compounding hasn't had time to compound. The discipline hasn't had time to show results. All that exists is the daily cost of the new behavior without the return. Here is the framing that gets people through days 11 through 15. You are not experiencing doubt because the strategy is wrong. You are experiencing doubt because you are a human being, and human beings are wired to discount future rewards in favor of present comfort. The doubt is neurological, not analytical. It is your brain responding to the removal of familiar pleasure with a rational-sounding argument for restoration. The strategy you built in days 1 through 5, the one that felt obviously correct when you were calm and clear-headed, is more reliable than the analysis you're running in days 11 through 15 when you're tired, isolated, and starved of the immediate gratification the old behaviors provided. Trust the system you built when you were clear, not the analysis you're running when you're depleted. Days 16 through 20 introduce a specific torment unique to building wealth in the era of social media. You are 20 days into real sacrifice, real discipline, real daily friction. Your investment account has barely moved. And then you open your phone. Someone just posted their new car. Someone is in a hotel room in a city you've never been to. Someone built a business in 90 days and is posting the screenshots. And you are sitting in your apartment checking a brokerage account that moved $340 in 3 weeks, eating a meal you made at home. The comparison is visceral. It targets the exact nerve the sacrifice has left most exposed, the fear that everyone else is living while you are merely planning to live. Here is what the people who survive these days understand. Social media is not a documentary. It is a performance. The person on the yacht may have the credit card statement waiting at home. You are not comparing your reality to their reality. You are comparing your process to their highlight. The people who make it through consciously, deliberately chose their own story over someone else's curated moment. That choice was the turning point. By day 21, something stranger is happening. You are no longer fully the person you were 30 days ago. The old financial behaviors have been interrupted long enough that they no longer feel natural. But the new identity doesn't feel fully natural either. You are in between. And being in between is its own specific exhaustion. Not physical tiredness, something deeper. The accumulated weight of 30 days of constant small decisions running against years of ingrained habit. And into that exhaustion, rationalized retreats begin. A purchase slightly outside the budget, a contribution slightly reduced, a rule slightly bent. Each compromise is individually defensible. The pattern is corrosive. The people who hold through these days recognize the exhaustion for what it was, evidence that the transformation is real and deep, not a signal to revise the strategy, a signal that the strategy is working at exactly the depth it needs to work. They kept the systems running. Something unexpected happens in the final stretch. The noise gets quieter. The dinner invitation arrives and you decline it, not with internal conflict, but with the quiet efficiency of someone who has made this decision enough times that it no longer requires significant energy. The doubt surfaces and you recognize it as a familiar visitor, not new information, just the same voice you've already heard and already moved past. This quieting is not numbness. It is the beginning of competence. And for the first time, real data arrives. Small data. The investment account is measurably larger than it was 30 days ago. The budget held for a full month. The automated transfer executed without crisis. This evidence is small. It is also disproportionately important, because evidence is more powerful than motivation. Motivation is a feeling. Evidence is a fact. And once you have proof, even small proof, that the system works in your specific life, you have something to return to in every difficult stretch ahead.